Well, hello, everybody. That's Friday, and this is the weekly sales wrap portion of the Elevating IT podcast. I'm your host, Mike Brooks, with my guest, and this is Return of the Jedi. That's what I named this episode because I had Frank before the new year cryogenically frozen. So how are you feeling now that you've been thawed?
Was that how the hands were with Han Solo?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. Frank's
Carbonite. I was gonna say kryptonite. Carbonite. I got my
kryptonite is what makes me weak.
Right. I'm good, Mike. How are you, man? I feel like we haven't talked in I don't know,
in days.
Last year.
Right. Well, as far as everybody knows, we haven't talked since last year. Yeah. So what we did is we took a little time off, a little hiatus from recording over the new year, and then as things evolved with this podcast, people have been asking to be on the podcast, which is cool because we're getting, people are listening, people are watching, they're listening to it on iTunes. So I had a lot of folks inquire about being on the podcast. So I bumped Frank one week and then bumped him another week and bumped him. And he wasn't complaining. So I was just rolling with it. But I wanted to bring you back. So you're back in action.
I'm here.
So one of the things I have to tell you is that my mother watches us every week, and I expect her to be on today. And she's like, "Where has Frank been?" She wants to know where you've been.
Yeah.
So she missed you.
Moms love Frank. I'm telling you. It's been like this my whole life. Yeah, the moms always think I'm cute and stuff, and they want to bake for me. And tell your mom if she wants to cook or send me
she
some
would
food.
Definitely. I'm sure she would. She's a good cook, but she goes, "Where's Frank?" And she wanted to know where you were, and she loves listening to the banter. And she said, as soon as we go into talking technical stuff, she gets off. So if my mother is watching right now, hi, Mom, and Frank is back.
What's your mom's name?
Mom.
I was going to give her a shout out, but
that's her name. That's what I call her. No, her name is Susan. Susan.
Hey, Susan.
Don't call him. Do not call Frank. So what's new and exciting in the world of Frank DeBenedetto's MSP Two River Technology Group? I want to talk about kind of catch up with what's been happening. You ended the year really strong. I know that. And, despite all of the craziness that's been going on with COVID, you ended strong. And we want to catch up and find out what's happening because you are an MSP. Frank is totally hitting on your mom. Matt Solomon is watching on LinkedIn. All right, Matt, since you're watching, I have a story for you. Because I did a quick tease with Matt that for the webinar that Matt had some kind of earthquake near his house, and the technology he couldn't get online, so we had to postpone the power outage or something. Matt couldn't get on, so we had to postpone the webinar. But we did a tease for the webinar. It was supposed to be this past Wednesday, which was 27th. It's going to be scheduled for next Wednesday. So if you're watching this before the 3rd, make sure you sign up for the podcast with Matt. But me and Matt did an episode, a quick little live to just promote it. And my mother said that Matt Solomon looks just like you.
Yeah, you guys kind of did look alike. When I saw the promo, I meant to tell you that, and you guys were side by side. It might have even been on LinkedIn or something. I was gonna say you guys look like brothers, and then I was too busy. But
it was a bunch of people commented on it at birth, and it was so funny. So I said, Matt, I think somebody's insulting you here.
Hey, did you see Matt's outtake little video with the dog? I thought that was pretty good, Matt. I was entertained, and I laughed at your reel of bloopers, I guess. So well done. It's good to make people laugh.
Yeah, well, that's what we do here. But I didn't see that. I'll have to go check that out. Matt is doing some amazing stuff. He's broadcasting all the time, and those guys over at IDH are killing it, doing great content. And we're going to do a webinar with them next Wednesday. You, Frank, are going to be hosting it. I'll be there as well, but you and Matt are going to get on and have a conversation on cybersecurity and all of the nasty stuff that's out there. So it's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So before I read Matt's comment here, we were talking about, we're just kind of catching up on what's going on in your MSP. How'd you end the year? How are you going in 2021?
Yeah, it was a very interesting year, to say the least. We came into the first quarter. We had 2019 was our best year ever, and we brought some of that momentum into 2020. And obviously in March, we went virtual, and things slowed down for a while. We had a bunch of time to work on the business, which was actually nice. We sort of refocused on our service delivery. We really started to talk more about, what could we do to improve the delivery of the service that we have. And we got some really cool validation, because the cloud platform that we've been selling since 2012, ever since Hurricane Sandy, worked flawlessly through this pandemic. And so we got a lot of really good validation from existing clients. We actually onboarded a couple clients during the pandemic that were on the fence. One we had never talked to. So we increased clients, especially in the fourth quarter of last year. And then we finished up 2020. It was actually even a better year than 2019. So I think we were up, I think 16% on revenue, and I think almost 18% on income. So it was a good year. But more importantly, we did get that validation that the solutions we're providing and the consulting that we're doing worked really well, right? And that's, I think, as any business owner, the best feedback you could ever hope to get, because you want to know that the work that you're doing is important and there's value there. And so we did get that. And now we're really busy. I think it's a combination. There's a lot of people now like buying new computers and laptops and kind of restructure how their offices are set up. So we're busy with that. And we're busy with new prospects. We had two, virtual first-time appointments last week. We did one of those. We already did a cloud demo for, and we can do all this virtually, which is pretty cool. We are going on site when necessary, but I think people are more comfortable, at least these initial meetings, just doing it via Zoom. So we've changed up our sales process slightly, but it's nice to see that what they're looking for is business continuity. And before, I think people were made very aware of cybersecurity because of what was in the news and like the stories, and then it's sensationalized for sure. Not that it's inaccurate. It's just those stories are like, you read those, you're like, wow, people, like, it really gets them to stop and think. But now we're getting the calls and people are saying, look, we're really aware of the cybersecurity risks, but we can't really work the way we were working, right? Our current MSP, or lack of an MSP, has us in a situation that it's more temporary, right? And we see this as more as a permanent to semi-permanent type of way of going forward. We need to change it. So, we get that call that, the MSP sort of moved them to some sort of cloud in the middle of this, but they still have the server. So they're, half their files are in SharePoint, half the data is still on a server. Someone's got a remote control in to get the QuickBooks. So it's like this broken mess. And so, we're able to go in there and show our solution. And it's not like we just crafted this yesterday. I mean, like, we've honestly been doing this for 9 years now. So, we're pretty, it's a pretty well-oiled machine. So, it's just a culmination of a lot of stuff that we've been doing, we guessed right. We've been doing it the right way. We got really good validating feedback, and now we're just continuing to bring it to new prospects as they, kind of come by and shop around for solutions. And this is that proverbial groundswell we talked about. We talked about there's going to be an opportunity, and, clearly the pandemic's not over, but I think what people are starting to get over now is like working in a temporary fashion, right? They want to move on to something that works for them. So that's kind of what we see in this groundswell is now here. We're starting to see the flow of leads come in. So we expect to have another really good year in 2021. So.
And let's I want to put things in context too. And we're talking, just in case you jumped on, as Frank was talking, Frank's talking about his MSP, and he's also the founder of audIT. He's not talking about audIT here. We're talking about what's going on in Frank's MSP. So for those of you guys listening, want to give you some kind of insight as to what's happening. You know, Frank's had his record year in 2019, then had a record year in 2020, and on par to probably have an amazing year in 2021, despite all the things that are going on. And I don't want to undermine anybody who's hurting out there and having problems. There's some real bad stuff going on. What the goal is here is to really, motivate you and give you some ideas on how to move forward and fight. So let's put some things into context, Frank. How big is your MSP? How many employees do you have?
We're up to 11 right now.
Okay.
And you do bring up a good point, Mike. And, sometimes when people ask business, I feel like I'm spitting in the wind, right? Like, I don't want to take that for granted. But I think that, probably most of our audience is in this industry. I know when I signed up for the COVID vaccine, this is one of the check boxes on there that's deemed to be an essential industry, or essential worker, whatever. So, we collectively, I think the IT industry is important now, trying to keep especially small businesses up and running. I don't want to be tone deaf to what's happening out there for a lot of businesses. So it's a good point.
And I don't want you to hold back either. I'm not saying that. I want you to motivate and inspire here, because you run a successful MSP, and there's reasons for that. If you weren't doing certain things, you might have been struggling too. And I think there's people out there who have had, they've been doing everything right, but they're in an industry like hospitality, and they just got killed, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yep.
Right. So there's a lot of folks out there who have circumstances beyond their control that did everything right, and we don't, but there's also people out there, and probably a lot more, who, because this industry is so necessary, there's probably MSPs out there who weren't doing any marketing, who were shooting themselves in the foot with doing their, with selling and running their MSP in a way that they should not have been. Holy mackerel, Bobcat just walked behind you.
Yeah, that is a pixie Bob.
It's like jarring. I know what the cat is, and you obviously, I've seen the cat before, but it's still jarring to look up and see like what looks like a bobcat. Anyway, I was thought you were in danger, Frank. So talk about what you did, because again, there's reasons more than just good luck that you've had record years here. And I'm not even talking about, obviously the show is sponsored by audIT, but it's not about audIT. There's a philosophy behind audIT that I think we can talk about. We're not here to tell you to use audIT. If you're not using it, that's fine. We're here to kind of help you guys communicate better to your audience. That's what this show is all about. Elevating IT is all about better communications. And when you're communicating better to your clients, they understand what the value is. They are going to buy what they need, and the whole industry gets lifted up. Small businesses get lifted up. So what are you, with that said, what have you been doing for marketing all these years to make sure you're out there? And have you been
let me answer the question before, which is, like, what are the reasons for success? I think it's, I've been focused on building monthly recurring revenue, since day one, but especially since 2012, when we had shifted to the cloud solution set that we offer. And in the beginning, you don't have that much MRR, so you have to work really hard. But if you have the right solutions, people stick with you, right? There's a sticky situation with the solution you offer, and that MRR tends to stay on the books. And then as you keep adding it grows to a point where then you can make different decisions and you can weather these storms, right? So for me, I think it was identifying that early on and then staying true to it. And the whole reason why audit came about was because I wanted to add more MRR faster and not be frustrated and not feel like I did the prospect a disservice because I confused them. And so audit helped me do that pretty quickly, especially the last 4 years. We've grown a lot. And so that's kind of gotten me to where we are. In terms of marketing, I mean, we're Robin Robbins shop. So I think this might be my 13th year in Robin's program, and I've extracted all sorts of value out of that. I mean, not just marketing, but a lot of other things. But Robin is continuously reinventing things. She stays relevant with with current events and what's out there, what's topical, and she's helped me pivot. The latest round of changes right now that we're making to our website is based around building a story brand by Donald Miller. I went through this 2 years ago and had converted our website, and now we're doing it again, and we're simplifying it even more. We're all about work simply, work securely, and work anywhere, right? We boiled that message down, take all the tech out of it, right? I mean, that's so it's at 6 words, right? It's pretty easy to understand. We do IT, we help you work simply, work securely, work anywhere. And and the work anywhere now speaks especially loud to this new normal that we're in. Whereas before, it was relevant for us because we were selling cloud solutions, right? So we were all about the business continuity just right now. And we took out the work from home because that sort of had a negative connotation at one point. And so, we went with work anywhere. But that's really been what we're doing. We ramped up our SEO, trying to drive more traffic to the website. We're trying to let that website do more of that pre-selling for us. So we don't work with a lot of doctors and dentists. It's just not a vertical that we've had success in. So you come to our website, it's not real touchy-feely for that vertical. But if you're a financial services professional, or you're an accountant or a nonprofit, you'll see our website and it will feel like home. And so from a marketing standpoint, again, it's having the right message, making the message about them, not us. We're not the hero of the story. They're the hero. We're simply the guide in this story, and we're trying to help them achieve success. And for us, that combination has won for us year over year now for quite a few years in a row.
That's cool. And you are still out there doing all the selling, right?
I am out there doing the selling, yeah. So we're in the process of now hiring. I mean, the term changes, but for want of a better term, a VCIO to take that pressure off of me, sort of do the account management. But I've found that I'm the best sales guy out there. I think there's something to be said when one business owner is meeting with the other business owner. They know that they're meeting with the person at the top. So, we've just tried to really fine tune the leads that we're getting. At this point, I don't really need practice selling. So I tend to make sure that the lead is really well qualified in one of our verticals and meets the minimum number of workstations, which is 20 for us. And then we'll go out there and we'll whether it's virtual or some combination thereof. Our goal is always to schedule an assessment, do the audit, and then sell away.
Right. What else? You've done I know you went and kind of documented. You did a lot of documentation and a lot of making sure your processes were all dialed in as COVID hit. And talk to me a little bit about that. What has that done for you? And I know that was a long process, but you're
it was. So we knew we needed to do something. And again, if you go people, process, product, and not necessarily in that order. So product we have always done well with. So since 2012, we've really refined that stack. So it felt like we were at the top of our game there. As we got busier, I had to hire more people. As I hired more people, I realized we didn't have all the processes documented. So it became hard to train and get these new people, involved. And that's when I said, you know what? We've got to get really serious about documentation. I remember Dave Goldie, when he was with IT Glue, he talked to me about that. And I remember him telling me they would like write an SOP on how to make coffee in the kitchen. Everything was documented. And we're letting you laughed, I laughed too. And, we haven't done that yet, but we've written, I think the last count was almost 162 SOPs in the last 12 months. So, we really got serious about it. And again, that was part of, the time that we took last year that we were able to, take and work on the business. We wrote a lot of SOPs, and that's helped a lot because it's improved our accuracy. It's improved the time it takes to deliver that support, and thereby improving the quality of the services that we're delivering, which is really what the theme is all about. So this year we're kind of carrying that over. We're really busy right now. We're actually upgrading a lot of our existing clients to our new cloud platform, same vendor, just the new generation, and we've documented it to death. I mean, it's pages of just detail, so anybody can do it. And we're excited because this allows us to renew agreements, new 36-month agreements on multi six figures of MRR. Is a good place to be. I mean, it's where you want to be at your business, where you've got good MRR and it's not going away, overnight. And like I said, a lot of our clients in professional services industries, which are still doing well. Fortunately, our verticals were not in industries that were hard hit like retail or restaurants and those. So that's where a little bit of the luck comes in.
Right. And are you the most expensive guy? Are you the cheapest guy? And you're like, where do you fall as far as how much you charge?
Well, I mean, it's not like a law firm, so I don't charge a different rate, let's say, than the rest of my team. So it doesn't, the MSPs don't really work that way. But I could tell you, I am the most expensive person, like in terms of hourly rate. So the best thing I could be doing is selling, generating new business, not writing SOPs myself, not doing tech support work. The best thing that I can be doing, other than just running the business and guiding the ship, is out there bringing in new revenue. And because I've gotten good at that, that's what I see as my job. And anything that takes my attention and time away from it is I always look at that as something else that I need to either hire somebody to handle or put a system in place to take that, that pressure or time away from me, or document it so that way I could delegate it off to somebody else and have them, take it and handle it. And I got to tell you, we don't have a huge staff, and that's kind of by design, right? So we're highly leveraged, but when we write these SOPs, my team loves it because it gives me the opportunity to go to them and say, hey, I would love to give you more responsibility. And here's what I would like you to do. And here's the SOP. It's been written, right? I need you to follow this. And if you do this, there's an opportunity to earn more money because you're more valuable. And they're all over that. I love it too, because it takes, my time's worth more than their time is, on an hourly basis. If you calculated it, I'd rather have them making it and free me up to be out there selling.
Right. And the reason I ask you that is because I talk to MSPs all day. And one of the things I hear is, and I'll give you a story from yesterday. I was talking to an MSP who is the most expensive guy in his area. He's an audit user, and we were going over some strategy because he competes against all these folks who are lowballing, and it drives him crazy. And what do you say to folks who are trying to be, and I don't want to say the most expensive, charging the right amount of money, right? Charging what you're worth, knowing what you're worth, and charging what you're worth. But maybe they're right now, they're in a place where they are charging less, or they're just starting to charge more and they're nervous about it. I mean, what do you say to them?
The most clever line that I heard, and maybe Robin said this, or it was definitely somewhere in her community, was that I can't afford to not charge enough to the prospect or client that I'm working with, because if I don't, I'm not gonna be able to afford to deliver the services that I promised them.
Right.
So like you can't afford for me not to charge them the right rate. It's only going to result in failure at some point. And sometimes you don't see it in the beginning, but you see it when you're trying to scale. Because what happens is you get busy and you need to hire more people to handle the load, and you suddenly realize I don't have enough revenue to do that. And now you're in a position that's it's impossible to win at that point. So you need to price your solutions properly. You need to make sure that you standardize on that solution stack. So you can't let the clients kind of run wild and tell you what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. You need to maintain that control, and you got to do that from day one, or you find yourself in a mess. So it's really about that standardization. It's most certainly about making sure that you're pricing the product correctly. Most of the time, if you look at what your competition is doing, you're doing it wrong, because you're just assuming that they've done it properly, right? Which is probably not true. And there's some really good programs out there. There's two in particular that I've followed over the years that there's two different strategies to figure out what you should be charging. But typically it's bottom up, right? You just start adding up your costs, and then what your cost of goods sold is, and then you have to figure out what's the margin that you need to be making so you can run your business. And you don't have to guess at it, because success leaves clues, right? There's plenty of really successful MSPs that have come before us, and ones that are currently running that you can learn from. And if you do it that way, most of the time it's trash in your head, right? You get in your own way thinking you can't sell it at these prices, and you can. I mean, we used to be an average of $200 a month per seat, but that's actually kind of low now. So now we're probably creeping closer to $250 a seat on average, all in average seat price. And we know that's a premium price, but we are delivering, and that's the differentiator. If you're good at what you do and you can deliver that support and service, and your solution works really well, right? That's the other piece of it. So sometimes you have great service, but your solution's like okay, and you can still get away with it, right? Sometimes you have a great product and your service is like okay, but people stay with you for the product. So we're definitely, I think, the product is great, and we're just we always try to learn and improve our service delivery to make it even that much more pleasurable for the client.
Awesome. And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't mention that what the show is about is really communicating more effectively. And Frank, you are most talented, probably, in my opinion, at communicating things in a way that your prospect can understand, and making things non-technical. And that's really, really important.
Thank you. Yeah, you need to, you always have to be cognizant of that your audience typically doesn't have the same knowledge or depth of knowledge as you do. So if you get lost in your own little world, you're going to lose them, and you're going to force them to look at your price and make a decision solely based on that. And, one of the things that audit helps me do when I go through that report is it doesn't allow me to get real technical, because there's nothing that's too technical in there. So it forces me to stay at the right level that they could understand and make decisions. And I got to tell you that, prospects ask really good questions if you give them that opportunity. They're not as, I don't want to say dumb, but they're not as non-technical as we think they are, right?
Right.
But if you get too technical, you will lose them. They'll never ask those good questions. And those are those buying signs, right? You never give them an opportunity to raise the flag that, hey, I'm interested in buying from you, because you kind of bowl them over with tech. So this keeps me at that level where when they ask the questions, and the reason why I bring this up was, I did a meeting yesterday, and it's a law firm, and these guys are not technical, but they asked some really good questions, and it was really important, and I knew they were like thinking the right way, and because it was almost like leading questions. Like they asked it knowing what the answer was they wanted to hear, and I already had, and then the answer was going to be affirmative or positive. So it was good because, I didn't get a situation where I had to say, no, we don't do that, or no, we can't do that. So it's interesting the way it kind of develops. Sometimes if you study it, it's kind of rewarding to see how it works.
Right. Awesome. Well, that was great stuff. We'll pick up this conversation again because I think it's really important. And if you are an MSP listening to this and you want to come on the podcast as a guest, I'm happy to bump Frank to bring you on. Just kidding. We want to hear from different MSPs of all sizes and places where you are, because I think it's instructive for your peers to hear about what's going on. Do want to tease that in another hour and a half, 2 hours or so, right? Yeah, an hour and a half. I will be interviewing James Muir, the author of this really great book called The Perfect Close. I love it. It's really, really simple. If you are, closing is probably one of the hardest things to do, right? Asking for the sale. There's a lot of training out there. Some of it, probably a lot of it is high pressure, and it feels uncomfortable trying to pin somebody down to convince them to make a sale. And James distilled it down to 2 questions. You can actually just skip to the last chapter, read the two questions. The rest of the book is kind of a very good blueprint about how to run your discovery, your meetings, agendas, really, really good stuff. And he's got a lot of resources. So he has been gracious enough to come on at 4:00 Eastern.
What are the 2 questions? Can I ask real quick, just to kind of leave us on a cliffhanger?
I don't want to ruin it, because I don't know, I don't want to blow the surprise. Like you probably Google it, I bet. I don't know if he's going to, I know I've heard him in other interviews and he mentions it right up front. So he'll probably mention it in the beginning of the podcast anyway, but I don't want to ruin the surprise. So you'll have to tune in, Frank.
Fair enough. I will. Yeah. Okay. You got me. I was trying to get the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And what I like about James, and, the fun part about this, being with audIT, right, and working on this really great platform, is that audIT's all about simplicity and taking away the technicals to make it easy for folks to understand, and while at the same time making it compelling, making it interesting and emotionally impactful, novel, right, so that people pay attention. And one of the things I just did another video on this, and he's talking about setting up an agenda for the meeting, right? He's teaching in this chapter about creating an agenda, which is really the same thing as presenting anything. What he's saying here can be the discovery or the close, your final presentation. He said, if the agenda items are too technical in nature for certain participants, you will lose their attention. Conversely, if the content is overly simplistic, attendees may resort to texting or checking email during your meeting. So you walk that fine line. It's really, and he really does a good job of explaining why audIT works so well, which I love, and a lot of these great books, some of the greatest sales books that have ever been written, really illustrate why audIT works. So it's very cool to see that, and you tune in today and hear all about it.
Will do.
So thanks for being on, Frank. Thanks for listening, everybody who is listening, and make sure, I'm just going to put this last banner up here to tease the live webcast that we're doing with Matt Solomon from ID Agent, and it's February 3rd now at 2 p.m. We moved that. It's the 5 proven practical steps to close new security business, and you can register at auditforit.com/ID Agent Live. Now, if you're listening to this podcast episode after, you will still be able to register for the recording on that same page. So go there. Either way, it's going to be great content. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. And until next time, keep elevating IT.
Take care, everybody.